Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the first episode of my new series, which is going to be knitting through the 1900s. I've been wanting to get into vintage knitting patterns for a while, especially Victorian ones, but they're pretty scary. As you go back in time with knitting patterns, they become more difficult for the modern knitter because there are no sizes. It's just a pattern for one size and you have to figure out how to make your size yourself. There are no charts. And I'm a chart person, I love charts, I'm very visual, but no. Older patterns just have everything written out row for row, so it's a bit scary. And I thought let's ease into it and work my way through the 1900s first. Let's start at the 90s, go to 80s, 70s, 60s, blah blah blah. And then after I've done that, I can go into the 1800s and tackle some older knitting patterns. But for now, I want to start with the 90s. And the 19s are difficult because 90s fashion is not my, nor 80s nor 70s. So it took me a while to find a pattern I liked. And there were some interesting ones. But I do want to make sure that I make things that I will actually wear. So I found one. And it's this Cedar, if that's how it's pronounced, pattern. It's a cardigan. I think this will be a really nice warm-up cardigan for ballet, and the yarn I'm using is this Drops Lima in the color 9029. It's a wool and alpaca blend. So I've already started. I've done about 4 rows, I believe, so it's not looking like much yet. It's a bottom-up pattern, so we start at the hem and work our way up. I did have to start over once because I made a mistake on the actual very first row. First row starts with knit 2, then do a yarn over, and I only knit 1 and then did the yarn over, so that's great. So I started over again and now it's going pretty well. So far, I'm doing fine. The 90s is not that long ago, so the way 90s knitting patterns are written is not that different from modern ones. So let's just keep going. I've now finished the bottom edge, the hem, if you want to call it a hem. And I just did the eyelet row. So far I'm doing pretty well. I haven't run into any issues with the pattern. I've understood everything. The only issue I had was with the eyelet row, but that's my own fault. I read that I was supposed to do knit 2 together, yarn over all the way to the end. But it was supposed to be knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 and repeat those 5 stitches all the way to the end. But like I said, that's my mistake. I didn't read the pattern right. The pattern is fine. So the next step is just to do about, I don't know, 15 centimeters of just plain stocking stitch. which is boring. So let's just fast forward to something more interesting. I've now finished all the rows of stockinette stitch, which was a bit boring. I am now ready to divide into the left front, right front and back piece. So I've got some scrap yarn on a tapestry needle, and I've already kind of put stitch markers while I was doing the last row, so I don't have to count anymore. I can put these stitches first on my scrap yarn for the right front, and then I can put the back on another piece of scrap yarn. And from then on it's going to be a bit more interesting, because we're going to shape, we're going to do, well, they call it sleeves, but it's just 5 stitches, I believe. So I don't know if I would call those sleeves, but at least it means that I've got something else to do instead of just stockinette stitch. And it will also be going a lot quicker, or it will feel like it's going quicker, because I'm going to have less stitches to work on at one time. And so far, everything is going well. I haven't had any issues with the penny yet, but since the last update, I have only done stockinette stitch, so it would be really weird if something would have gone wrong. But I've already read ahead, and I think I'll be fine. The instructions seem clear to me, and now I have only these stitches left, and I can focus on this left front piece. Okay, update time. I've finished the left front. Yeah, this is the left front. So this is the neckline area, I believe. And then this is going to be the sleeve edge. And then this the shoulder seam. I had to put a marker here at the end of the row to indicate shoulder shaping. I don't really get why, because there's a pretty clear cast off edge here. So it would be pretty visible in a way, but it's fine, just following instructions. And then I've picked up the stitches from the scrap yarn for the back, and I've started working on the back piece, which is 63 rows of just plain stockinette, and I finished 3 rows so far. Okay, so I've run into a little issue. I'm at row 9 of I've started the shoulder shaping. However, this is all the yarn I have left, so I don't have enough. And that's my own fault. I did buy the recommended amount. Usually I actually get 1 or 2 skeins more than recommended, because I usually need more than recommended, but I didn't. So I learned a lesson, and I ordered 2 more skeins, so I'm just waiting for this to arrive and then I can continue. Oh, guess what just came? I just got home from work and it's just waiting for me, so that's exciting. This should contain the 2 skeins of yarn I need to finish my 90s project. I'm a little bit worried because there's also supposed to be the yarn for my 70s project in here. And it seems to be a very small package. Everything's... Oh yeah! So here's a little sneak peek for the 70s project. And then I do have my skeins here. And this is quite interesting. This is a grapefruit laundry detergent for wool. And that was really interesting because grapefruit. I'm not really getting grapefruit, but it's fine. The most important thing right now is these 2 skeins, so that I can now finally continue working on my cardigan. Once I finished knitting the back piece and front pieces, I sewed the shoulder seams together using the mattress stitch, and I think I could have done a better job at this because it's a pretty obvious seam. It doesn't really lie flat nicely, but I'm hoping with some pressing I can maybe even it out a little bit. So you've now joined me at one of the final steps, or I guess the final step, which is sewing on the button. So I'm now sewing on the final button. The other three are already sewn on. And what I've done since the last update I've given you is that I picked up stitches for the armbands, which I had to redo twice because I'm really bad at kind of estimating the ratio of stitches to pick up to get to the amount that I need. I much prefer patterns where they just tell you pick up 2 stitches in every 3 stitches. But they didn't. So I had to figure it out on my own, which took a while. But I got them in the end. It definitely isn't perfect. I didn't have the exact number of stitches I needed, but I don't think it's very noticeable in the end. So it's fine. So then I made the armbands and I sewed up the kind of underpit area, if you want. And then I again picked up stitches, this time for the front part, neckline bit, I guess. I don't really know what it's called officially, which went much easier. And I made the bands, including the buttonholes, which I'm now sewing on the buttons. So I matched it up to the buttonholes and marked out where the buttons need to be. So that's what I'm doing now. Then I also already blocked the cardigan, and while that was drying, I made the drawstring. So I'm almost done. And now that I'm done, I've had some time to think about this whole pattern, and there were 2 things that seemed a bit strange to me. One of them was, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I was supposed to put stitch markers around the start of the shoulder shaping, I believe. And I still don't know why I have to do that. I finished the whole project and I didn't really need those markers. So I don't know why those instructions exist. Then another thing that was strange to me is that for all the decreases they use knit 2 together. So for both right leaning and left leaning. And with my modern knitting brain, I automatically assume that right leaning would be knit 2 together, but for left leaning that we would do a slip slip knit. But the pattern calls for knit 2 together everywhere. So there are some spaces where the left leaning decreases don't look that great. But apart from that, I didn't really have a lot of issues with this pattern. I understood everything. I was never confused about the actual knitting instructions. That's fine. And yeah, ended up with a really nice cardigan. I feel like I could have gone for a smaller size. It's slightly more roomy than I would like it to be. The instructions were easy to follow, and I am generally pleased with how this turned out, and I think I will get a lot more out of it. I really loved how the fabric feels, so that's going to be great. Now that this is done, and before we move on to the final reveal, well, I do need to still thread the drawstring through the eyelets, but that's for another step. I've also decided that I want to start working on a beekeeper's quilt to use up all the yarn I have left over from projects, whether those are YouTube projects or just the projects I do on my own time. I decided to add a little segment to the end of every knitting video, where I give you a little update and show you the amount of hexie puffs I was able to knit out of the yarn left over from the project in the video. But then I'm also at the same time working on some hexie puffs from yarn I have left over from other projects. So I want to give you a little total of the hexie puffs from the project yarn from video, and then a little total of all the hexie puffs I have for the yarn from this project. I finished one hexie puff completely, and I'm about to finish the second, so I have my needles here. And I think that's all I'm going to be able to get out of this yarn. I have this much yarn left, but that's not going to be enough. I'm excited to start working on this quilt, and I will keep you updated on that at the end of every video, like I said. So back to this project, I'm quickly going to thread the drawstring to the eyelets, and then we can go to the final reveal, and then we'll have reached the end of this first episode of the series. And the next episode will be the 80s episode, which will be live 4 weeks after this video airs. So stay tuned and let's give it a final review. So here we have the final finished 90s cardigan. Like I already said, I am happy with how this turned out, ignoring the kind of weird left-leaning decrease, but I don't think you will notice it that much if you are not a knitter yourself. So in the end, I'm very happy with this. I'm excited to get started on the 80s project, but for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.